Hey, this is John with Website Hosting Pros, and want to talk to you about how to buy a domain name. So, a domain name is something that is super important to have if you're trying to work online. It's essentially the internet address for your web properties. So, think of a domain name as an address for property that you have online, much like you would have a physical address for your home or your business. So, for example, say for your home, you lived at 123 Oak Street. And so if you need to have something, delivered to your house, you purchase something off Amazon, you're having company come over for dinner, you would tell them to come to your home at 123 Oak Street. And so your domain name is basically your address for your online property, your online home. So a domain would be something like google.com, facebook.com, youtube.com. Those are the addresses for those websites. And people know that when they go to facebook.com, that they are going to then see the Facebook website. And so if you're building a website online or having anything that needs to attach to an online address, then you need to have a domain name. So there's several different domain registrars that you can buy domain names from. A registrar basically is where you would purchase the domain name. When you buy a domain name, you do have to provide your information. So you do need to provide a name, address, phone number, email, etc. Because you're essentially buying an online property, just again like you would buy a physical property such as your home. And so there's several different places you can buy domain names from. Actually, lots and lots and lots of different places that you can buy domain names from. Now, I do think it's a good idea to, when you buy a domain, you try to get what's called a TLD, which stands for Top Level Domain. And those are domain extensions. So most people are familiar with these, .com, .net, .org. Or the three big TLDs. There's a few others that are now considered top-level domain extensions also, but definitely .com, .net, or .org. Now everybody's familiar with .com, right? I mean that people know about that no matter what, and that's the one most people are aware of. It's what they're familiar with, and it's what they feel comfortable seeing. And you want to keep that in mind. So when you're trying to select a domain name, would you want people to come to mydomain.com? Would you want them to come to mydomain.net? How do you feel when you see a .net domain? Does that give you confidence? Does it make you hesitate a little bit? And then there's newer domain extensions, which we'll see more examples of here shortly, but mydomain.co. Most people are familiar with those, but there's some other ones that are a little more not as familiar. .xyz. How would you feel if you were searching for information and in the search results you saw something that said mydomain.xyz? Would you click on that, or would you be hesitant to click on that? So these are the things you want to keep in mind when you're deciding on a domain name to choose. So first, let's just talk about some different places you can buy domain names from, and then we'll talk about how to go about finding a domain name and how to choose a domain name. Okay, so we definitely want to get a top-level domain if we can. I buy almost all my domains from a website called Namecheap, namecheap.com. They're well-established. They have good pricing, which is why I like them, and they're very reliable to work with. Another site that you may want to consider is called NameSilo. NameSilo has low prices as well, and probably the main thing that they offer is they offer consistent pricing. A lot of places, what they'll do is they'll give you a really good discount on your first year, but then really raise the price when it comes time to renew the domain in your second year. So, for example, GoDaddy is notorious for that. So here we are on GoDaddy. They're saying you can buy a .com domain name from GoDaddy for just a penny. That's awesome, right? It's right here. Grab a domain for just a penny for your first year. But look what the fine print is. A 2-year purchase is required. Because on that second year, they raised the price. Let's go down here on NameSilo. They have a real nice comparison chart. Let's go take a look at that. So, GoDaddy. Now, NameSilo, you're going to get a .com for $9.95, and it's going to renew that second year at $9.95. Google Domains, going to be $17. If you get a .com from GoDaddy, yeah, it might be a penny that first year, but then it actually renews at closer to $18.99. So really not much difference than just getting it for $9.95. But if this website, you decide to keep it for 10 years, you're going to be paying $18.99 every year it renews. And more than likely, that the pricing is probably going to go up with GoDaddy. Name.com, $12.99. And then also you want to look at what do you get. Most registrars will offer free what's called Who Is Privacy. So again, when you buy a domain name, as I mentioned previously, you need to provide your name, address, phone number, email, etc. because you are owning that domain. And that is public record. Now you can keep that information private with this Who Is Privacy. Most registrars offer this. Namecheap definitely does. NameSilo does. Google Domain offers it. Now, interestingly, GoDaddy, Name.com, they do not offer free Who Is Privacy because they want you to pay extra for that. So these are some things that you want to try to keep in mind when you're buying domain names. Now, Namecheap, they usually do offer, if you're a new customer with them, you can get, a .com for $5.98. Typically, their .coms are going to be around $8.98 for the first year, and they typically renew a little more than that, maybe $12 or $13. Okay, so not bad. And again, I just like them. I have all my domains with them. I think they provide good service. They're very reputable. The interface is easy to use, etc. So now let's go back to, we were talking about coming up with domain name ideas and how to find one that's available. Well, first, you just want to understand that, again, you want to try and get a top-level domain, .com, .net, .org, if that's available. Let's just say you're starting maybe a dog grooming business. And so you can go to any of these registrars and type in maybe some keywords for your website. It's going to be about dog grooming. So let's just search what domains are available for dog grooming. Now, it's basically just going to bring back dog grooming with an extension. So here's a .io, but that's pretty expensive, $1,200, right, to purchase that. Doggrooming.com, obviously someone owns that. You would have to make an offer. That is probably going to cost several $1,000s to get that domain. But if you scroll down, you can see there's all these other extensions. So here's that .xyz. Now that one's pretty expensive also, although not a real trustworthy extension. But since it's such a popular keyword, they're able to charge a lot for that. And so as you go down, you can see all these other extensions, .art, .me, .io, .health, .biz, maybe something to consider, .us. But again, you can see because it's a very common keyword, people have come in, they've bought these, and they're willing to sell them at a premium if you would, if you're willing to buy it. Dog Grooming Club, you could buy that for $5,000. So let's say you want to buy a domain name that has something to do with dog grooming, but obviously you don't want to pay these type of prices because they're pretty expensive. It looks like the lowest price domain would be something like Dog Grooming NYC. Now, if you live in New York City, that may be a good domain. But if you don't live in New York City, that doesn't make any sense. Dog Grooming Homes, again, not sure how that's going to show up in the search results. .cc. So, there are some lower cost options. And you can see they have over 400 of them. You can filter. Right now we're looking at the most popular. Since this is I don't think they have a pets option here. And so I believe this is a service. Dog grooming is a service. So let's see what they have for service extensions. Now these are pretty specific, right? So if you're a bar owner, maybe you get a .bar extension. .cab, care. Obviously none of these really apply. Dog grooming, .cleaning, maybe. That's $44 a year. Dog grooming equipment, events, so maybe. But again, these are not top-level domains by any means, right? And so they're not one of these three, .com, .org, .net. And so you do have to really think about how is that domain going to appear in the search results, right? So if we go to Google and we type in dog grooming, let's just say equipment, right? Because this might give us some, let's go down past, these are all ads, let's skip the ads. PetEdge.com, right? So .com, groomerschoice.com, all these top store at ryanspet.com, all these top results, obviously Amazon, are most likely going to be a .com, right? frankrowanson.com, petco.com, chewy.com. That's what you're going to find, because that's what people know and trust is a .com extension. Now, if we go down further, in the search results, let's see what comes up. iHeartDogs.com. Again, everyone's trying to really still go with a .com. And so that's why it's important if you're able to get, now here's a .net, right? That's the first different one that we've seen, right? Everyone's been .com except that one. And that's why those kind of, I guess I'll just call them odd extensions, the AI, IS, the XYZ, the IO, they're not very common. People aren't used to seeing them, and people, may not trust it if it comes up in the search results. And the other thing is they typically are frowned on by the search engines. So Google, Bing, Yahoo, all the major search engines typically do not favor those. And that's another reason we're not seeing them come up. So if you're hoping to get free organic search traffic by people coming to Google and typing in a keyword, and you're hoping your site will come up in the search results, then you really are going to need to stick with a top-level domain, ideally a .com. So how do we find these, right? Because they're expensive. Let's go to a site called leandomainsearch.com. Now, this is a site, and there's lots of others. This is just one example and one that I use commonly. But it's a site that'll let you put in some keywords and then find out what domain names are available, or variations of those keywords are available to actually purchase. That you could buy that domain today if you wanted to. So let's go and type in our dog grooming keyword. Let's hit search and let's see what comes up. And so look at that. There's over 4,000 available, and these are all .com domains. So these are all .com domain extension options that we're looking at that have the keywords dog grooming in them. And so what you can do is you can sort it by popularity, by length, alphabetical if you want, etc. It could start, if you want to start with, it has to start with dog grooming, end with dog grooming, etc. And so what you can do is just go through here and start to look at, do any of these look like something you might like? And again, these are all .coms. And so you might go through here and, you may take a look. You may say, hey, doggroomingcentral.com. Now, if you are in the business of selling dog grooming supplies and maybe have an online website that does e-commerce or drop shipping for dog grooming equipment and supplies, doggroomingcentral.com might be a great domain name that you could purchase. Now, if you were to click on this to purchase it, it's going to ask you to buy it through, I believe it's Bluehost and one other registrar. But I recommend you do not buy from them because they're going to be much more expensive. Instead, find a domain name that you like. This Dog Grooming Central, actually, I really like that. Dog Grooming Life. There's several, doggroomingexpress.com. So there's actually, quite a few good options when you look through here. Then go back and instead go to your favorite registrar. Again, I use Namecheap, so I would come here and I would say, hey, Dog Grooming Central. Wow, look at that. It's available. And it's going to be $8.98 for the first year. And if I like it and want to renew it, it's going to be $13.98 after that. So, and I got a coupon code where I could actually buy it for $5.98 today instead of $8.98. And so that's how you can easily buy domain names. Now again, if you go to Name Silo and let's search for Dog Grooming Central. Again, that should come up. there it is, $9.95 to buy it, $9.95 per year, right? It's always going to stay $9.95. That's the great thing. .com. Now, it shows you, again, you do have these other options, but again, I would not go with them. Don't be tempted by their lower pricing to go with them. Now, here's another, .net is a top level, but again, you're going to pay more than the .com, so I wouldn't do that. And then here's the .org, but again, you're paying more than the .com, so I wouldn't go with that either. I would definitely go with your doggroomingcentral.com. And so then you just purchase it, add it to your cart, pay by PayPal, credit card, etc., and then you own that domain. So that is how simple it is to buy domain names. I hope that makes it clear. If you have any questions at all, just reach out and let me know. But I hope this helps get you started and point it in the right direction.